All right, so in the last video, we went through an introduction to R, looked at the basic programming structures such as the object and the function. We did some very basic calculations, learned how to install packages and load packages within the programming language. And what I'm going to go ahead and do now is we're going to take a look at an editor for R called R Markdown. And what this allows us to do is to run R within a perhaps more convenient editor style windowing fashion, and then create documents that automatically load within either HTML browsers or PDFs or Word, or perhaps even Excel. So this is going to give us the ability to be more versatile, to do even in a second programming class, you might learn how to create interactive programs within this environment as well. All right, so the first thing we need to go over is this new editor window or editor program. This is called RStudio. You see I have here in RStudio some windows here that are the traditional script window like we saw last time in the notes. This is the script window just like you have in R, but it provides a little bit more help. Let me get to a here's a different programming window. This is a traditional programming window that will look very, very much like what you see in R. Notice what you have are a few more helps, such as the number of the lines and so on, so that you can get help. What you can use in this programming window is you can run particular lines. Okay, so here I have a comment. Last time we looked at comments, and I have a comment about what these are. This is actually for a grant proposal I've written in the past, or was writing. You can go up here to run or do Control R to run particular lines. And look what happened when I selected run here is down here in the console window, which is just like the console window in R, we see that the object was created. And over here in the values area, we see the object here as well. So this is going to show us objects that are currently accessible within this environment. So you can see at least one added benefit right now within RStudio. If I continue to run through the lines, notice I created names for my counts vector there. We'll talk about that later. You probably don't know about that yet, but you can also create very simple graphics. So I pulled this file up for this video simply because it was short, and you immediately see a simple graphic. Okay, so this was students from a past grant I was working on, and out of all of the students, I need to add percentages here. A majority are teaching, a few are not teaching, and a few are still completing their degree. The intention of the grant was for them to be teaching. So you can see here too that the plot automatically shows up, and it's in this separate window. And what's really great about this, and one of the reasons I often use this whole program RStudio for kind of basic analyses like this, is that you can export this graph. So you can save it as an image, and if you select save as an image, you can save it as JPEG, PNG, or others. EPS is good if you're writing LaTeX documents, by the way. You can select your directory, go to wherever you want to have it saved. I'm not going to save it here. You can also change the name, so I probably don't want to call it rplot, but you could change it to my noise plot. Okay, it's going to cancel that. You can also save this as a PDF. You can also copy it to your clipboard if you want to just paste it right into Word, and that works too. If you want to delete it, you just hit the delete button there. You can zoom in and out, and so on. So there's a lot to do here. If you notice on this window where we are seeing this plot, there's also some other tabs. So first, files. So these would be files that you have access to within this RStudio environment. Here's a list of the current packages. And notice last time we programmatically installed and loaded packages, but within RStudio, I can go to the Packages tab here, click Install, type in the name of the package I want. So on your practice that you'll be doing soon, you're going to be taking a look at ggplot2, and I would just simply hit Install and be done with it. I'm not going to do that because I believe I have this already installed. Another tab here is the help file. So you can actually search for anything within the help and documentation. Let me give you a little hint about the searching that took me a while to realize. Let's say I want help on ggplot2. Or let's do a different function. Let's do this. Okay, so notice as I start typing in the function Gaussian, it picks it up. It is better if you let it complete your phrase for you. It automatically loads the file. Sometimes you'll have trouble with it actually accessing the help file if you type the entire thing in, or you may make a mistake too. So it's just better to let it complete your phrase. Finally, there's the viewer. This is not. This is a way for viewing data when you have a full data frame set up within R. This is not applicable yet. I'm going to go back to plot. All right, so let's take a moment and make sure we know how to obtain RStudio so that you can install this in your own system. I simply Googled RStudio. You click on the main link here for RStudio. And all we want to do is go straight to the downloading RStudio. You can do it here or down here, either way. So there are several options. Thankfully, everything is free unless we want special content or capabilities. But for just day-to-day programming, this free version is just fine. Then find your installer that is dependent on your operating system for your computer and pick that one. It's pretty straightforward after that. By the way, in the handout that I'm going to give you that I'll be running to show you your first RStudio session using its package Markdown, I'm going to be pointing out that you need to always install R first. So before you get to this, I'm assuming before you get to this video that you have already installed R. So if you have not, stop the video, go install R, and then you can get to installing RStudio. Then everything works seamlessly together. So let's go back to RStudio. All right, so attached to this set of, to this video is a program that I want you to open within RStudio. So this is a special kind of R file called an R Markdown file. So notice first of all, it has a different file extension. It's not .r, it's .rmd, which stands for R Markdown. So this is a new type of file, and I'm giving this to you early so that you can choose early on. Do you want to use regular scripting files, which is fine within R, or do you want to use R Markdown files? Okay, so what I want you to do for this very first session is just run my example file I gave you, and it will actually create your own help page that you can print out or just save on your PC for use if you choose to use R Markdown in the course. Okay, so when you open up this Working with RMD Markdown file, it's going to look like this. So this is a fairly long file. There's a lot of what we call chunks in here. These are the different segments of code, okay? And in these chunks, which we'll talk about in just a moment, you can create R programming statements. What's great about the Markdown file is you can also type out using just plain old editing from your keyboard notes. So for example, this default heading is always created anytime you create a Markdown file. I'm talking about this thing. So this is always going to be there. You can edit this and create your own title. I made the author here, our Markdown help page. You can create different types of output and so on. But then right below this is where you can just type and it will automatically load within the document. Okay, I'm going to leave that in there just for a second so you can see how easy this is. And then we'll take it out because I don't actually want that permanently in the file. Once you open and your Markdown file that I've given you looks like this within your RStudio environment, I want you to go up here and select knit. So this is literally, it has a little ball of yarn and a knitting needle because this is much like knitting together a document that has several different components. So there's the script here that has just typed components, but there's also programming statements starting right here. Notice that shaded in gray are programming statements that are processed or compiled in R. We have lots of programming statements here and so on. And what this does is it knits together that into a single document. If you click on the little arrow here, you can knit to HTML, knit to PDF, or knit to Word. Let's just knit to HTML because it's a little faster for right now. So you can see down in the console, it's working hard. You give it a few seconds. And now we have an HTML document that has all of that content that was in that Markdown file. So notice that sentence I just typed is the first thing we see after the title. This is where you can just type and it will automatically load within the document. Let's take this out in just a moment. But notice we also have headings. So for example, let's go back and trace. Where is Working with our Markdown help page? Where did that come from? Let's think about where Getting Started came from and Prepare for Analysis. We'll do that in just a moment, but for now, let's scroll through and you can see we have some plots, we have code, we have output, we have a lot of different styles, we have a table there, more code, more output, even an equation, even pay dirt Pete, and then various other sections. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close this. I'm going to take out my sentence I just typed for you guys, and let's think, where were those headings coming from? So remember that very top heading was Working with R Markdown. That's the title that you can create, whatever title you want. Just needs to be within quotation marks. Then there was the author. I actually made that like a subtitle. I do that sometimes because I don't always want an author, but we could say your name, and then maybe our Markdown help page. Then the next title is Getting Started. So notice how we create titles. We just do 2 hashtags, and then whatever you want to type for that title, space, and then whatever you want to type. The next title was Prepare for Analysis. Again, 2 hashtags, whatever you want to name for your title.